Coach, I know it's probably just as frustrating for you, but when you look at your front court, it seems like some games Jay Marr and Quincy take a step forward, and then next game out, they barely make a dent in the stats. What do you see as far as from that consistency standpoint with those guys in the post?
Yeah, consistency has been an issue for our whole team, not just for our front court, specifically Q and Jamar. I mean, Jamar's a freshman, and we're not playing him like one, and he's had some great runs, great games, and he just didn't play as well against San Francisco. But you know, he's got 9 games under his belt, and he continues to get better. You know, when you have anyone that's fairly new, you know, the trajectory usually isn't just like that. There's some ups and downs that come with it, but he's, you know, going in the right direction. He just had a little bit of a downward, you know, trajectory that particular day. We haven't lost any confidence in him whatsoever, but, you know, it's our team's that way. You know, we're just inconsistent. You know, Q, you know, didn't start more for matchup purposes than anything else that particular game. We were waiting to see who they started. You know, we're trying to match minutes with one of their bigger guys to make it a more beneficial matchup for him. And I don't know if that affected him, although he didn't start the game before either. And just he missed some baskets, you know, some shots around the basket early that he'd been making, you know, and it's almost like he lost a little confidence, you know, that way. But as a staff, you know, we got to continue to tinker and toy with how we can, you know, put him in a better position. You know, he's proven that if he gets the ball deep enough that he can, you know, score the ball, and he's got beautiful touch. And for whatever reason, just it didn't go in for him that evening. And then he had some blockout errors down the stretch, you know, that hurt our chances of coming back and trying to win. They both did. And certainly we're trying to correct them and make sure they don't happen again.
All right, we'll go to Jacob to Coach's right.
Coach, do you have any update on the health of Josh?
You know, Josh is obviously a hardworking kid, fortunately for us. And our trainer, Bryce, is a hardworking guy as well. And I know they're going to be working around the clock to try to get him back, you know, as soon as he can. But I don't have a timetable.
We'll go ahead and get it to Sam here, front row middle, and then we'll go to Colin.
If Josh can't play and ends up missing time, how's your confidence just in the rest of the team to be able to pick up for what he might, you know, be leaving if he's not playing?
Well, I always feel like when you have time to prepare for something like that, it's a little bit easier than when it happens, you know, a couple minutes into the game. And so we'll probably be more prepared if that ends up being the case that way. And, you know, at halftime we made some major adjustments, especially on the offensive end, that proved to be good ones. I mean, we scored almost twice as many points in the second half as we did in the first half. And it was kind of like, you know, is this really happening type deal for some of the guys on our team, I think, and even some of the coaches. And it was obviously a big blow. You know, it was a big punch in the gut, you know, with 17-33 in the first half to lose someone that is so valuable to your team. But that happens, you know, in sports. And you got to be able to move on quickly and figure it out. So, like I said, I mean, we should have more confidence now, knowing that we just played, you know, 36 plus some change without him, and you know, we got better as the game progressed. So we have an idea of what we need to do.
With Jaden, it seems like he's had some good confident scoring performances since coming back from injury, and Jabari's been a really energetic player off the bench for you. But seeing them two together, is there anything that you're looking for, that you're expecting going into this next game with the two of them having to have that partnership?
Yeah, I mean, Jaden, talk about consistency. I think he's been very consistent the last 3 or 4 games on both ends. You know, I've told the team this, that his buy-in to being assignment correct and being on it defensively has been a shot in the arm for us in a positive way. He's really working on that end of the court. If you really were paying attention, I mean, his motor's going. He's doing a good job of guarding his own man and then being in position when he's not guarding his own man, and trying to get the scout into the game. And he just seems like his buy-in is off the chart right now. And then on the offensive end, he's found his groove a little bit of how he scores, and he's been doing that. He's been scoring the ball at a pretty good level, and for the most part, pretty efficiently, as well in terms of the shot attempts and actual points that he's receiving. So I'm happy for him, and for us to be more successful. He needs to be a big part of it, going forward. And then Jabari, had obviously a pretty good game. He's 6 for 9, I think. He had 6 defensive rebounds. Showed some athletic plays and showed a little bit of a fire. And, he just needs to build from that. He needs to be more consistent that way, where we can rely on him for certain things every single night. And, and he understands that. We've been talking to him about that for a while now. And, he's kind of our multi-dimensional guy out there, where he can move across the board. He can play the 2, and he can even play small ball 3 if we have to, for defensive reasons, et cetera. And then he's played the 1 prior to coming here, and he played the 1 a lot this summer and fall. So he's developed into kind of a utility guard for us that can do a little bit of everything.
We'll go back to Jacob to coach's right.
What have you seen from this Utah team, and kind of how big is it for your team to have 6 or 7 days off in between games?
Yeah, it comes at a pretty decent time that way. We're trying to get healthy, obviously, with Josh and others. It's typical finals week where, those books obviously become even a bigger priority than they normally are. And I think I may have mentioned it to you guys or to the radio. I don't know. Like, in this world we're living in now, sometimes I think all of us can forget that they have those responsibilities, and the amount of time, if we all can harken back to our days of what it's like to go through finals week and then be part of a basketball team. So we're trying to give them the time and the space to take care of their academic responsibilities and finish the semester strong that way. And then with some other guys that are banged up, including Josh, having some more time off this week is beneficial for us. Utah is a very well-coached team. Coach Jensen's a first-year coach, but he's not new to coaching college basketball. I mean, he played there and was an unbelievable player. Then he's been in the NBA, and his teams are very well organized, and they run very good offense. And so they're going to be a handful. We're not playing them on campus. We're playing them, in the NBA arena, which will be a new experience for this team. But certainly, it'll be like a lot of these neutral site games that we played, other than the Tupelo one. It'll be a decided, difference in the fans that are at the game. So we've already been down that road, and we understand, what we're walking into that way too.
We'll go second row middle to Danny P. and then slide down to Sam.
Coach, you talked about Josh working very hard to get back, and the trainer helping him to get back. I know it's a fine line to really, wanting him back on the court, and and maybe just making sure he's healthy. But just talk about Josh's desire to help this team as soon as he can get back.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to put anyone, regardless of who they are and what their projected worth is, to our team on the court that's not, confident in whatever injury they have, and try to put them in harm's way. But it's never my call. It's always going to be the trainer, doctor / player call when it comes to something like that. But Josh will let us know when he's ready. I mean, he'll have to go through a process like most of the guys do in terms of being non-contact first, and get out there and get moving and get confidence in how he can move before we throw him into the fire and play, physical 5-on-5 type of work. But, hopefully it's sooner than later.
You talked Monday night about just the importance of improving as a team right now. Are there any particular areas of emphasis that you guys are focusing on, or is it kind of just all across the board?
Rebounding is something that we've been talking about a lot, and disappointed with the results on Sunday. That was as big a priority as we had of going into the game. Of we had to control the glass on both ends, and we didn't. And we've got to be a team that does a lot of work on the ground. From the time the rise of the shot till the ball secured by whomever, there's a lot that goes on the court, and we break it down to them, to the finest detail, and we've just not where we need to be in that department. We're in my opinion, losing games because of it. If you look back and watch the games closely, not being able, it's not the first stop as much as it is what happens when the ball is shot. And it's not one person. It's just a missed assignment there, a missed check there, not enough grit here. And again, it's not one guy. I can't sit here and say it's the front court or the back court, because they're all involved. And we just haven't put it together well enough yet. And we've got to help them better. We've got to figure out a different even scheme rebounding-wise to possibly put us in better position. You know how I believe in that facet of the game, of it usually proves to be a big reason why a team wins or loses basketball games. And for us right now, that's an area that I'll continue to stress and try to figure out and try to help this team, do better.